Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. We got a little 7-game slate in the NBA tonight to end this work week with you guys. And this one, taking a look at the Jazz headed to Charlotte, taking on those Hornets as a part of their road trip that they are currently on. Nate does have his great article up on playpicks.com with some best bets on player props in there for you. And make sure to like and subscribe to that page, as we got 3 game videos up for you today and our player props video that will look to stay super hot with you guys. 7-3 the last couple of nights there. And check out thelines.com as well. Make sure you're seeing who's in and out of these NBA lineups all the way up until game time, as well as checking out that odds checker, making sure you're getting the best juice available from odds makers out there over on thelines.com. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's jump into it.
Yeah, the Hornets are plus 3.5 or plus 4 at home right now. Not much movement from plus 3 opening. The total has fluctuated a bit from 229 to 227, hanging around in the middle there right now at 228.5. 6 other games on the slate here. Wiz plus 3.5 at Detroit. The Warriors are plus 2.5 at Atlanta. Totals 221 there. That is our bonus episode here on this Friday. And we also break down the Mavs plus 3.5 at Wolves. You got plus 130 on that money line for Dallas with Karl Anthony Towns still questionable. The Knicks are plus 8 at Miami. Rockets minus 3.5 at Portland. And then the Sixers minus 5 at the Clippers. So Utah on the road, a completely different team, and really struggling here now 3 games into this 6-game road trip, having gotten not much going on offense against the Nets and Celtics, 2 teams that are really ramping up right now. So to be expected. They went over for the first time in 7 road games against the Celtics, because the Celtics dropped 125 with a 138 offensive rating on them. While the Hornets have been very good lately on offense, I definitely don't expect that type of efficiency, and they're no longer playing at this league-leading pace. In fact, their pace has declined by about 2 possessions per game each game during this nice hot stretch they have here. They won 5 straight before losing to the Knicks 2 nights ago. The last 2 have gone under with that slower pace. The last 2 against the Western Conference as well, slowing down to a 94 pace. And Utah is playing at a snail's pace right now. In their last 4, 92.6 possessions on average. Their offensive rating is a solid 116, but they're scoring just 108 in that span. And you look at their road numbers in general. During that 7-game road stretch where they've gone under in 6, they're getting 103 points per game. They're shooting 34% from 3 and only getting 18.5 assists per game. That is one of the worst marks in the league. So that's where Charlotte's vulnerable, is giving up the 4th most threes, the 4th most assists at home. But Utah not really executing right now. It's really a lot of Donovan Mitchell and nothing else. With Bojan Bogdanovic out, they've now lost 11 of their last 16 without him. Donnie's posting a 38% usage rate in his last 4, and he's topped 30 points in each of those, but not a ton of success against Charlotte over the sample size of 6 games. He's scoring 20.5, shooting 42% from the floor. So if Charlotte does a decent job on him, Utah is definitely not erupting here. I don't picture the Hornets losing by a lot in any sense. So I think the plus 4 at home is pretty comfortable, or the plus money on the money line. But really, I think this game says under more than anything to me. And if I can parlay that Hornets money line with the under, as the home team tends to do, winning gritty at home. The Hornets actually were in a long stretch of being unable to score, but playing much better defense at home. It kind of ramped up in terms of their pace and scoring for a little while, but they still showed that they can win that way in their last few. Or I would just tease the under up back to like 232 and then take the Hornets at plus 8. I think there's no way they lose by double digits at home to this Jazz team. It's just not been very effective. And you on the road, you look, they're 7-14 their last 21 road games, and 2-9 against playoff teams in that span. They weren't even competitive by the end of the first half against the Celtics. Granted, the Celtics are in fuego, but
Yeah.
The Jazz outside of their division, they're almost a 500 team at 32-27, and they're 16-13 against the East. So I just trust the Hornets to keep this close, keep it gritty. And as long as they don't hit 23s like they have in a couple of their recent games, they're not going to force this game over either.
Yeah, it's the 3-point shots, as you mentioned, that are so crucial at this point for both teams, and we've always known that about Utah. I think Charlotte has definitely started to play that style, as you mentioned. Their pace drops, and so their half court offense has changed a bit, as well as they've done a little bit less run and gun and a lot more set, obviously set offenses, which is not a bad thing for them, as they have a ton of ball handlers. They have a lot of fluidity on offense as well, with guys like Miles Bridges being a nice versatile two-way player. But I think, for them, it was a bit of getting used to Gordo being out. He was so crucial to what they did. It was easy to sort of call that they were about to start struggling big time once he went out. But they have found that groove a bit more, to the point that you're making. And this is a situation where I just like, Charlotte at home as much as I dislike Utah on the road right now. Just some bad losses as of late for them, as you mentioned, and just not being able to hang. I mean, even just for the entirety of the season on the road at this point, when they're the away favorite, they fail to cover those games in 16 out of 25 games that they've played in that situation. So not a very good cover percentage there at all. And if they're losing, the Jazz, that is, there's the likelihood that they're also not scoring a lot of points, as you would expect when you have splits between your wins and your losses. Obviously, you're scoring a lot less in those wins, but for them, it's pretty stark, as well as their defense is really what sort of maintains even in their losses. But they're they're only giving up about 112 points a game in those losses. Obviously, much worse than the 104 they're giving up in their wins. But the point is that when they lose, they're not losing by losing blowouts. Is my main point here. They're not scoring a ton of points and then giving up a ton of points. They're just failing to score and then just at any point. And then that's really what shuts down their team, as their defense has not been the juggernaut that you would have expected, as it has been in the last few years, with Rudy doing a really good job anchoring that defense, and then their wings being able to cover. But they're thin at this point on the wing, and with guys obviously out a lot more than they have been in the last few years. They don't have guys like Joe Ingles around still. Jordan Clarkson has regressed a ton, and on the road is not very helpful for them as well. That's a pretty stark contrast for their offense. Utah, in terms of Jordan Clarkson, averaging about 3 points less a game on the road than at home, which is another reason to like this under. But yeah, I think 4 points for Charlotte tonight looks nice. It wouldn't look nice normally, but this is a situation where Charlotte's been playing really well lately. You mentioned in their last 3 clutch situations, they have the best net rating, which was surprising to find that there was any time this season over any course of games that Phoenix was not the number 1 rated net rating, didn't have the top net rating in clutch time over any span of games. It's now Charlotte, just for at least those last few games that they've been playing in that situation. So I do like them a lot more than the Jazz tonight if it's close towards the end. And I wouldn't feel bad about a teaser, just so I don't have to worry too much about this game. I can take the under, and I can take the Hornets +8 and get this game at 232 or so, 232.5. Like, sounds really great to me.
Yeah, and I touched on the 3-pointers, and that's really going to be the watermark for the Hornets in their last 3 wins. When they've hit 23s or more at a 51% clip, they're scoring 135, and then they've gone 2-1, against the Hawks, Knicks, and Pels, scoring 109 points per game because they shot 32% from deep. So can Utah keep up its pretty solid 3-point defense? They're 2-5 their last 7 on the road, but holding opponents to 34% and allowing the 5th fewest threes on the road on the season. They've gone, they've won 8 straight now against the Hornets, which didn't mean much when they went against the Celtics. They had won 4 straight in that matchup too. But it is good for the under. Just notice that they've held the Hornets to 10 threes at 32% and 105 points per game in those games, and that the Hornets tend to go under when they are underdogs, including 9 of their last 12 in that situation. They've gone under. The Jazz 18-10 to the under as a road favorite, and 18-10 to the under as against the East, and 8-3-1 to the under in their last 12 overall. That's why I thought you'd see a little more movement down as people bet this, but I mean, the Hornets are a total boom or bust game. There was a game we broke down last week with the Hawks where we said either take the alternate total down to like 230 or expect them to score 250 here. And sure enough, they went down to like 218 where it finished. I mean, the Hawks are also a boom bust team, but right now the Jazz are just a grinding team that, again, has one guy who can create his own shot and nothing else. And so that's why I don't think, but they are still, ramping up defensively. So that's why I think they will be competitive here. That division is slipping away if they can't play well on this road trip. Right. And I think they will try to bounce back with their defense against a much more manageable team after you face the Nets and Celtics, in order to be able to keep that team under 110 in Charlotte tonight. I think they pull that off.
Yeah, I'm with it. And the last thing I would say is Donnie Mitchell can still easily get 30 points and have this game go under. He, as you mentioned, he scored 30 plus in his last 4. I mean, in his last 6, he's averaging over 30 as well, only failing to score 30 once in his last 6 and in all of his last 4. And in those last 4 that he's had 30 points, they've gone over once because basically because the Celtics scored 125 points on them in their last game. It was a total of 215.5 that barely went over because, like I said, they scored 97, so they didn't contribute to that total at all. Donnie still had 30 points, is my point. He's had 30 points in their last 4, and this is the amount of points that they've scored. They did have 121 against the Clippers. They had 108 against the Knicks, 106 against the Nets, and 97 against the Celtics, yet Donnie Mitchell had 30 points in all of those games. So 28.5 points for him tonight is way too low. You can get that at minus 107, almost even odds on your money on FanDuel for him to get 29 plus. I'm not going to take any player performance doubles tonight. Do not like the Jazz, like you mentioned, although they could pull it out. I still don't like them. And I still like Donnie to score 30 points. It's
He's 27.5 at DraftKings too at even money. So yeah, look around for his props.
Okay, well, as soon as we are done here, I'm going to go head over there and smack that a little bit. So that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Check out all 3 game videos we have up for you today, as well as that player props vid. We'll look to stay super hot with you on. And until we see you next, happy betting.